This could be your year. Make an old man proud of you. Forget about the tears on the level. See me eye to eye.
Hey everybody, welcome to another MoGraph podcast. I'm your host Matt Milstead. Joining me this week, I'm super excited. We haven't talked in a while. Mr. Christomer Rutledge, aka Tokyo Megaplex.
Yo, happy to be here. Thank you for.
Yeah, man, super excited to have you here. But real quick, real first, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Otoy. You know them, you love them. They are the makers of Octane Render and the Render Network. With Octane, you can create super photorealistic renders incredibly fast, and for those renders that need a little extra push of power, the Render Network has you covered. The Render Network allows you to render your Octane, Redshift, and Blender cycles frames in a fraction of the time and a fraction of the cost of other cloud rendering services. And a reminder that this week the new Render Royale competition has started. This month's theme, post-apocalyptic visions. So if you are a C40 Redshift user, an Octane standalone user, or a C40 Octane user, or a Blender Cycles user, get those submissions in. It's been really great seeing all the different submissions over the past few months, and they've got the different tiers. First place, $1,000. Second place, $500. Third place, $250. And that's for each render engine. So you've got $1,000 for Octane, $1,000 for Redshift, and $1,000 for Blender Cycles. So make sure and get those in. You can check that out at renderfoundation.com/royale. We're here to talk to you, Mr. Christomer Rutledge. It's so good to see you. Like, I feel like we it's been a couple years since we've seen each other. I want to say,
Yeah,
it was some random downtown bar in LA that we just so happened to
meet.
meet.
SeaGraph 2 years ago.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah. That was my first SeaGraph. That was crazy.
Yeah.
It was a crazy time. I made the mistake of, usually when I go to like a festival or whatever, it's like I'm going to a place to go to that event.
Yeah.
And because this one was in LA, I didn't, make sure I didn't have any work that I had to do during that time. So I was like juggling projects and all that stuff, and I was like, man, this sucks. So I don't know. Next time, definitely, I gotta like block out the week to like just do SeaGraph or whatever. But it's so hard.
Yeah,
it's so hard to block out that time.
Yeah,
it's nice to just be somewhere dedicated to go to a thing and hang out with everybody and not worry about anything else.
And it's been a while since we've been to an event together too, like other than SeaGraph. It's like it's been interesting seeing like being friends with you and following your like course because, or your trajectory, because I feel like you have just absolutely killed it in this industry over the past like 10 years or whatever. It's like fresh out of college or whatever, you get this, Vimeo pick, and it's like, all right, your success has outshined all of us that have been working in this industry for 20 years.
I mean, thanks. I would say it's interesting because I feel like I'm not really like so much in like the MoGraph industry specifically, but I'm more like I'm always kind of finding my own sort of path, and I'm like always straddling kind of like there's like motion graphics, there's sort of like more like the Houdini realm and stuff.
Yeah.
And then a big one for me is sort of like the indie animation realm, where like most of the
Yeah.
events that I go to are like the Ottawa Animation Festival, Annecy, in France.
Is it
Um, Pictoplasma
Yeah.
is one of my other favorite ones. And that one's a little bit more kind of like MoGraphy people that do like character stuff,
Yeah.
like versus the other ones are kind of more like experimental animation and stuff. But yeah, it's cool like being kind of straddling all those different things, because then I can be the guy at the indie animation festival who's super technical and knows Houdini and knows all this stuff and is trying to get people into that. And then on the flip side, I can be in the more technical world and be trying to be like pushing people to like make more personal projects or submit something to a cool animation festival or whatever. And I can be the guy that everybody knows that is doing all those things, and it helps me kind of have my own special niche in a way. But yeah, it's been interesting kind of like as it's evolved and just navigating it, and just always trying to like do the stuff that I'm the most excited about has
Yeah.
always really like paid off for me.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like you have a very specific style. It's like jiggly characters kind of. And
that's what I would say.
Yeah.
I like to make floppy guys.
And you've done a lot of work. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you've done a lot of work with like Adult Swim and stuff like that because of this work that you have done, right?
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, the thing that you were referencing, the Vimeo staff pick thing, that was like my senior film that I made in college when I was in New York. Yeah, that was funny because I made that film to try to get into these animation festivals that I loved.
Interesting.
And it got basically rejected from all the animation festivals, but then it got a cool Vimeo staff pick, and that ended up getting it seen by people at Adult Swim and other stuff. And then they reached out and I started working on some stuff with them. I made this show, or I made a thing first for an episode of Off the Air, that I did a little bit after I graduated. And then I did some Adult Swim Smalls back when that was first kind of starting up with my friend Tom, that were more, live action. I mean, the thumbnail from this is one of those. And those are, I think now kind of like my favorite projects that I've done, even though I still love my Loaf Zone, my thesis project. We got so many great people in the chat. What's up, Joey? Joey's like a friend that I really become close with in the past year, who's making like the best Blender tutorials, I think, in my opinion. Because like when I got into 3D, I was like, I always really wanted to do character stuff, and I was like, looking at Maya tutorials and checking out C4D and all this stuff. I felt like, none of the tutorials felt like they were geared towards people that just like wanted to fully make their own kind of short films and like teach you how to like quickly like rig and animate and do all these things. And then I recently found like Joey's Blender tutorials, and it's kind of exactly the sort of tutorials that I wish existed in the beginning for me. But yeah, anyway, like when I did the sort of some stuff with Adult Swim, I made a TV pilot called Eggland that came out last year finally, but that was a project that I did back in 2022. And it's been interesting getting more into like, since moving to LA, getting more into like TV development stuff and film stuff and all that stuff.
Yeah, because you were originally in New York, right? On the East Coast.
Yeah, I was in New York until COVID, basically. And 2021, I moved here. It's just been like constant sort of like evolution of, different kind of.
That's got to be
like,
crazy culture shock going from New York to LA, like, especially in the industry and like, film and stuff like that. Yeah.
No, totally. I mean, it went from working out of a lot of studios in New York as a freelancer to pretty much being entirely remote for everything. And then recently in LA, I've gone and gotten a dedicated studio space with a bunch of other awesome creative people, a bunch of game developer people. It's at the studio called Encyclopedia Pictura, and they were like a kind of animation studio, and they still are like a studio that does lots of different kinds of things. And they just made this this feature called The Legend of Ochi that came out with like A24. That's really, really cool. yeah, it's got some really sick like animatronic puppets and stuff in it. But
Yes. Yeah.
they,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, they started just renting like desks to like friends and friends of
Uh
friends because
huh.
they didn't need all of the stuff the desk there for like their animation studio anymore because the project's wrapped up. And so it's just become this really awesome kind of community there of people that I'm getting to work in person with, and it's really nice working in person with people to get again, but like still being a freelancer and doing my own
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's been an evolution. But the other thing I think for me recently is like the past couple of years was just still kind of freelancing, but working on less commercials and things like that,
Uh
and
huh.
more like weird music videos and like stuff with like Grin Machine, which is like the studio that I have with some friends. But now I've kind of gone and I've recently started like this new company called Amalgamation,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of my own like studio thing that I'm running with my friend Ben, and we are doing a lot more sort of like I'm doing a lot more producing, and we're doing a lot more kind of like assembling teams for projects and like strategizing and consulting and figuring out like, okay, if we want to do this TV show in this style or do this movie or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like what's the best way that we could go about it, given all the constraints, the budget, this and that. And like, could we like build our own cool indie animation team that could make this for whatever budget they're looking to make it for, rather than in a cooler way, rather than like just going to like, MPC or
Yeah.
like some big studio that's gonna like, charge a
Have
lot, and
crazy
also
overheads and be
and
ridiculously high. Yeah.
and also not be bringing in all of that amazing kind of like those new ideas that I'm seeing when I go to these cool animation festivals, and I'm
Yeah.
seeing like I love making work where I'm getting to like really collaborate with people and bring in their like styles that make them unique and let them do their own thing. I've had this big sort of like realization, I feel like, when I was making this short film with Tumblehead,
Mm-hmm.
who's like this incredible animation studio in Denmark run by my friends Magnus and Peter. And we made this short for Side Effects called Turbulence that was kind of a way to test out all the new rigging and animation tools in Houdini.
Okay.
Um,
Was
and
that that wasn't the airplane one, was it? Was it?
It was the airplane
Okay.
one. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so that's out on their YouTube page and stuff now, and we're sending out to
Just let them
festivals and stuff
know.
as well.
If you click on Turbulence on their page, it has a Vimeo password to watch it, so they may want to update
Oh
that.
no.
Yeah.
I'll let them know that because it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's
I'll
funny.
make sure to give them a heads up. Thanks for letting me know about that. But yeah, we did that project, and that was like a really great learning experience. And I think what I realized when I was working on that, when I was directing it with Magnus, after having worked on this TV pilot for Adult Swim,
Mm-hmm.
the Eggland one, where I was just sort of getting it animated, but wasn't kind of in charge of like the creative side of it.
Yeah.
Um, I sort of realized like, when you're directing something, you have this idea in your head of, oh, I want this scene to look like this, or this
Yeah.
is supposed to happen like this or that or whatever. But at the same time, like, we're hiring these amazing animators, like this guy Jesper, who works for Tumblehead, is like this unbelievably talented like 3D artist, especially like for character animation and stuff. Work with like so many talented people at Tumblehead, but he would, for example, like I did the whole kind of like animatic
Mm-hmm.
of everything in like 2D, and just kind of like did like, I took boards that their board artists did and I mashed them up with like drawings and things that I did. I used grease pencil to kind of put it together.
Uh-huh.
And I would see what Jesper would do, and I would initially have this kind of gut reaction of like, oh, I was kind of picturing it more like this
Yeah.
in my head. And I think when you're a director, there is that instinct to be like, oh no, I was picturing it more like this, do it like this.
Mm-hmm.
But then like if you sit and think about it for a bit, like you sort of realize like, actually, like, what if the thing that they did is actually better than what I had in my mind already? And
Yeah.
they're the one that's really the expert on doing character animation. They're a better character animator than
Mm-hmm.
me. Maybe I should be open to this. And then also, if you are open to that possibility and that is true, you then gain the benefit of like, you're not like, they're going to be really stoked that their kind of creative ideas are getting in there. They're going to feel more ownership of it. It becomes this way more collaborative thing with everybody. And I would much rather make a thing that feels like a big collaborative mashup of everybody's ideas rather than something that feels like, no, I'm the visionary director. You have to do it exactly my way. And I'm going to be a, like, you know, a dictator.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and you get way more bang for your buck that way.
I completely agree. And I think that's like, that's a little bit of maturing in our industry. Like I've been freelancing over at ABC, kind of like project managing, doing some stuff behind the box, and like also like, you know, watching the shots that come in and giving a little bit of input and stuff like that. But yes, you're right. It's like you can have an idea and like you can give as much input, but it's like, in order to like, especially in order to keep like a happy staff together and stuff like that, you have to let them like spread their creative wings and be their own creative self and not try and push so much exactly how you want it. Because the thing is, if you wanted it a specific way, you just go do it yourself. You know, everyone sees things. Everyone will interpret instructions differently. Yeah.
And exactly. And I think, having kind of, you know, the room to let people like, you know, explore and feel creatively involved and like having that morale be high and having everybody be excited to work on the project and be involved with it is just priceless. Like that's really just how the best stuff is going to get made.
100%.
But yeah, anyway, that's at least my philosophy with it. You know, I know that there's definitely instances where like you just have a really brilliant director who just has a perfect vision. And I think, if you want to enforce your vision more as a director, like the best thing to do is like hire people you trust and then really give them good direction up front.
Yeah.
Like, and be as clear as you can from the beginning so that you're not having to be like, no, I meant it like this.
Yeah.
But you know, like, there's, you know, there's a lot of ways to go about it. But I think on the whole, I'm finding this way is just the one that I feel like I'm the most excited about personally. And it just gets you really like, the most bang for your buck in terms of like, if you're trying to make something and, you know, you don't have a crazy huge budget and you can't afford to reshoot things and things like that. It's like, you know, like,
So you've started a studio with a buddy of yours, you know, and how is that studio? Right. Exactly. How has that worked for you? Like going from, I'm curious about like your transition from like just artists doing your own independent films into this more producer role. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's a lot of things about that. I think one is I had the experience of dealing with some producers where I was just like, man, I just feel like I could do a better job than these people. Like, you know, not to like, maybe that's a little bit of hubris, but like at the same time, like as I've gotten more into producing, I've realized more and more, I'm like, wow, having the perspective of being an artist working on a thing and then going and being a producer is so valuable. I'm like, how are there even producers that don't have that? That's like, it's like really benefited me so much. And it makes me feel like everybody should try all of the jobs. You know, I would love to see more artists try to be producers and execs even, because that's how cooler stuff's going to get made, because you have the perspective as an artist or a technical person to be able to understand what's really involved and what are the most exciting and efficient and fun ways to go about things. And I think that I just can't emphasize enough how important it is to be having fun doing the work that you're doing and figuring out ways to make it fun and have fun with it. Because man, once I hit a point where I'm like, I'm just making something that I don't want to have to work on, it's brutal. It's like you move like molasses versus like, just like, you know, moving at like the speed of light, like cranking out cool tests and renders and things, like when you're at the beginning of a project and you're having so much fun. Which also, you know, not to go on a total crazy tangent here,
please do,
to me is like a little bit of my issue, I feel like, with like a lot of the AI tools is like the process isn't really fun. It feels like you're just kind of pulling a slot machine lever and getting something out afterwards. And you're not like learning and trying things and discovering along the way at all. And that's like the thing about art is I realize like the thing that makes art good to me, my personal taste. I'm not saying this has to be the way for everybody, but the thing that makes art good to me is when you can tell the people that were making it were having fun.
Yeah.
Like I want to watch a thing or see a thing and be like, oh man, I love like putting myself in the shoes of the person that made this and being like,
Yeah.
man, that must have been a ton of fun to write this scene or to do this or that or whatever, you know? And like I was talking to a writer friend recently who she was doing some drawings and she doesn't usually draw. And I was like, oh, I really like those drawings that you did. Like those are really funny. And she said, oh yeah, I mean, they're bad, but I had fun making them. And I was like, I mean, that's, I think why they're good.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I think I like them is you can tell that you had fun making them.
Yeah.
So I just think that aspect of it is really important. And again, that's like the main issue that I've found with just like most of the AI stuff is it just kind of sucks the fun out of it for me.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's a little bit of a joyless process as opposed to the process of discovering stuff and combining different things together and coming up with a cool idea and testing it out and all this stuff. And, you know, animation is just like, it's a blast.
I hate to continue on the AI, but I did have a question about it because I you know, you're bringing it up, so I'm just going to continue. You know, some of the, you know, you've got a very weird style, which I love, absolutely. You know, some of the weird stuff that's been coming out of AI, how do you feel about that? Do you still feel like it's like soulless, or do you feel like, you know, it's like, oh, this is kind of fun. People are being weird with it, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that there are some people doing really cool stuff with it that I love to see. I mean, I love seeing like there's plenty of AI stuff. Like I'm not going to just judge something just because it's AI.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to judge it because it makes me laugh or it's, you know, like a funny idea or, you know, whatever. But like, you know, there's examples that I could give of artists that I think are doing really cool stuff with it. I think my favorite example is probably this sort of animator, artist, comedy friend, Alan Resnick, who I think is like brilliant. And he made this really funny promo video for his tour, his comedy show tour, where he's like in a room and he's like walking up to the camera and he's like kind of awkwardly talking about how he's doing his tour and he like sits down into a chair. But then what he did was he used AI to basically he cropped the video to the middle and it's really hard to tell that this is what he did. Like I had to like think about it a lot and I'm pretty sure this is what he did. I haven't even talked to him about it, but like, but so he had AI regenerate like the edges. So like the chair that he sits in is out of frame. So you see him sit down, but then he's like still standing up and it's like so bizarre and weird. And like, it's like, what is going on here? Like, it's such a, you know, a mind fuck. Like, I think that what's great about his work is like, if you watch like the VO3 demos that Google put out or things like that, like the thing that I love about it, like I watch those and I enjoy watching them. And I'm not watching them from the perspective of like, oh, I'm worried this is going to take my job. I'm watching from the perspective of like, this is so crazy. This is bizarre. And the uncanniness of it, the parts of it that are still weird about it are my favorite parts of it for sure. And those are the parts that I would want to lean into and use as a tool if I was going to use that tool. And that's kind of the stuff that Alan's doing is he's kind of exploiting like, where are the weird edges and the awkwardness of AI and things like that. But it's funny because at the same time, it's like, that's not the stuff that these companies want to highlight at all. They want to show where their thing is broken and making weird stuff. But like, that's the cool part of it to me. So yeah, anyway, I'm not like, you know, like inherently like all AI is evil and terrible. Like I have a lot of issues with it. I mostly dislike it. But you know, I'm open to like, you know, like enjoying watching a clip that is made with AI and thinking that it's cool. But like, yeah, there's so many other problems, like the amount of, you know, like energy that goes into all the processing and stuff. And also just like, I think for me as somebody who really getting into 3D, like was really stoked about the tech as it was evolving at the time between like 2015 and 2020, it was like so exciting, like GPU render engines and like 2 Minute Papers was always putting out all this really cool like research and stuff. And I feel like you are, I feel like you're like, with AI, you're just kind of like brute forcing answers to problems rather than
Yeah.
like having these really cool, elegant sort of like mathematical solutions to
Yeah.
things. You're just like, just throw tons of GPUs at it. And it's
Yeah.
like, it just isn't, it's not like something that excites me. It's not interesting. I want more research that is going into things other than AI, because that is the stuff that got me really stoked about being in this field where we're getting to play with these cutting edge tools all the time. And the AI ones just aren't really that exciting to me. And yeah, but anyway,
Yeah.
it's a complicated topic, of course.
Apparently, there's a
But
lot of birthdays in the chat. Everyone's
oh my
wishing
God,
everyone a happy birthday. So,
happy birthday,
happy birthday,
everybody in the
chat.
chat.
Okay, so away from the AI conversation, back to this. So you've kind of started your own quote unquote studio, you know. What are you doing what's your day to day as far as work goes? Are you still working for
Yeah.
other studios? Are you making your own stuff for like your own content for say Adult Swim or some other stuff? Are you
Yeah.
doing like weird marketing stuff for other companies or something?
Yeah,
What's your day to day
totally.
consist of?
I mean, it really hasn't changed much from it being a studio versus being like a freelancer.
Yeah.
I'm kind of doing the same thing, but just like under the guise of being a more legit entity or whatever, which is really how all studios seem to start.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was talking to a friend recently who runs a pretty big studio, and he was like, yeah, I just like, was getting hit up for lots of commercial jobs, and my wife told me like you should just say yes to everything, like, and get friends to help you with it. And like, I'm like, yeah, I have tons of friends that can help me do things. And I mean, people are always looking for work and stuff. And I love, connecting people for jobs and things like that. So like, yeah.
Yes,
we'll
actually, you introduced me to David Lopez, who I am still doing work for today.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Isn't
That
it?
was so long ago. I forgot about that. That's funny.
And unfortunately,
yeah.
my rate has not changed with him because it's one of those things where it's like, I really like the work. The work is weird and fun. And, like, and the emails are some of the weirdest things that I've ever conversed with someone, but it's like, yeah, I really like the work. So I keep my price ranged low,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a tough balance, like, between, doing those jobs that you're really, excited about, and the ones that like are actually gonna like pay well or whatever. And I always want to stay out of the no man's land that like from the freelance manifesto, like that I thought to be a really valuable kind of metaphor of like, don't do the in-between projects, only do the stuff you're really passionate about or the stuff that pays really well. But it's kind of impossible to like fully stay out of there sometimes when it's like, oh, this project's really cool and I really want to do it and whatever. But like,
I have recently started. I told my wife this year, I said, I'm tired of like kind of struggling, I'm going to take literally everything that gets thrown at me, no matter what it is. And I've found, that I've gotten a bunch of work because of that, and just piled it up. And some of it's enjoyable, some of it's not. But it's like, the joy that I get from not having to worry about my bank account being too low, it actually makes up for the slog of some of the work,
Yeah, I was on like a bit of a kind of like work hiatus for a while, and then I sort of recently was like, oh shit, I need money, and I need to start saying yes to everything. And it's tough because a lot of these projects are also big ones that aren't going to pay me for a while. So I'm doing a range of stuff, and I'm still working for studios sometimes, but whenever I can with a big project, I'm running it through my studio. And I'm doing a lot of like consulting and producing, and like I said, like kind of like helping assemble teams for projects. And I think a lot of people, just because I know people from all these different kind of areas, a lot of people just know, oh, I'm the guy to hit up about animation stuff. And if I am not the guy to animate it for you, which I'm usually not, like I'll put you in touch with the people that I think would make sense, or pitch you some idea of who I think could be good for it. Just because I know, a lot of people.
Yeah, that's
So
super nice.
it pays, yeah, to be very social and like connected to everyone. And, it's great to be on all the Discords and the Slack groups and going to all the events like as much as you can. But, also, yeah, you got to keep your bank account in
Yeah.
check. You got to make sure you keep learning cool
Yeah,
tools and trying things. And you gotta make sure you're like making your own work for yourself that like is keeping you like sane and having fun.
for sure.
And yeah, so I'm doing a whole range of things, and some of it's like big like TV film stuff that I'm either like producing or consulting or assembling teams for or whatever. Some of it's like music videos or ads or things like that. And yeah, I'm like working on a short for Adult Swim now that I'm excited about,
Cool.
that I'm getting help with from my brother, who's gotten really good with Blender and
Cool.
is helping me with the animatics and is really good. And he's got a big YouTube channel where he does video essays, and he just like watches lots of like movies and TV and is very kind of analytical and has a great sort of like film sort of vocabulary, so to speak. So he's like really good at helping me figure out these shots and do this animatic and stuff. So shout out to Steak Bentley, is his YouTube channel. Steak like a steak that you eat. Yeah, so he's helping me with that, and the Tumblehead guys are helping me a little bit, and I got that going while I'm juggling all the other things. And so it's like every day varies. Like some days I'm like really locked into working on one thing on the computer doing Houdini stuff. Other days I'm like running around to a million different meetings and doing calls and
Yeah.
helping set up computers at the studio, or it's just like kind of all sorts of stuff, and being logistical and more on that side, and all of it's fun for me in different ways.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I do require some amount of that creative fulfillment of like, I'm making this thing that's really my thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like my own little short or whatever.
Yeah.
Or a little Instagram post.
Yeah. What's your main workflow right now? When you're
Yeah.
doing work, like what are your main software you're in?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm assuming
question.
Houdini.
It's mostly Houdini. I'm dipping my toe into Blender more. It's really fun being at the studio where it's like there's a bunch of people that are really good with Unity. There's a bunch of people that are doing a bunch of C4D people and Blender people. And we're all kind of teaching each other everything. Like it's like really great, like getting the C4D guys more into Houdini, and they're doing Unreal Engine stuff too. And we're making like, they can work on a thing and at any point hit me up and be like, yo, how can I do this thing? And I can like, it's the most fun thing ever for someone like me to like go over to their computer and be like, oh, what's your setup? Oh, no, just do this thing this way. And here, let me build this for you. Blah, blah, blah. And they're like, whoa, dude, that's crazy. How did you do that?
Yeah.
It's like a lot of fun. And I feel like it's like a great way to feel like I added value to something in like a 5-minute window of time,
Yeah.
But you can really rabbit hole with Houdini is the problem with it. Like you can, when you're working on stuff yourself, like you can really spend way too long. And that's one of the things that
I feel like with Houdini, like, cause I hopped into it for a little while last year, like just to kind of like refresh my stop being afraid of Houdini chops, And it's like to make sure that I remembered a lot of that stuff, and it was good. It's like once I realized everything was VDBs, everything is VDBs in Houdini. It's like okay, like that's fine. I get quite a bit more of it, but I feel like you have to have this mindset of like this almost linear mindset where you're like, I need this, and then I need this, and then I need this, where it's like. It's like you almost have to know the process ahead of time, and then you're laying down nodes, and tweaking settings.
Yeah, it feels a little scientific. I really like it. It works really well for my brain, where I'm like, I have several different sort of like hypotheses of like the way to go about making this thing. I'm going to try the first way. Sometimes that works great the first time. Sometimes it doesn't, and I have to tweak it or branch off or try a different approach and use a different type of solver to do this thing or whatever. And it's like, eventually you get there. But it is cool that it's like this very procedural sort of like, like testing things, combining things together, like very data driven. It just is It works really well for me. I love it. But I think that in terms of like my process these days, one sort of realization that I've had is that going so far down the Houdini rabbit hole for me, um, again, it's a thing that you can really rabbit hole with, but also you're more with Houdini kind of building tools and like almost building software than you are directly making a thing with your hands,
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like there's really kind of two parts of making a project. One is the craftsmanship aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
like the drawing or the sculpting or hand keyframing character animation, the stuff that can't really be procedural.
Yeah.
All of that stuff is like a big part of the process. Um, and some people just do that and are not like super technical and aren't doing clever procedural tricks and
Mm-hmm.
compositing stuff in After Effects or whatever. Like they're just like brute force, like I'm amazing at, doing cell animation or whatever.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, there are like, code art people that like just do procedural code stuff and like Zach Lieberman or someone like that who's like making really cool, beautiful stuff, like these crazy cool patterns or whatever. But it's like all code, it's all these tools they're making, and they're not really doing any like drawing or things like that by hand,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the tool building, that side of it. And it's funny, like you ask like a coder, like, oh, how did you get into this? How did you learn to like, write all this code? How did you write this 10,000 lines of Python code? And the answer that I find you often get from people like that is, oh, I learned this because I'm lazy and I don't want to do things by hand. And it's like, that's lazy to you?
Yeah.
That seems insane. I could never write 10,000 lines of Python code or whatever.
Yeah.
That seems like an insane amount of work. But to those people, it would be a lot harder to invest the time in like learning how to like, draw really detailed or, like whatever. And I find that to me, my favorite stuff, and I think like a lot of the best stuff, is like a really nice hybrid of the two, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like you're like spending time like making things by hand, and then you're layering on all these procedural clever tricks and doing as much cleverness as you can to amp up all the stuff that you did by hand, the character animation, this or that or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like I think I've over invested in the Houdini side and becoming too procedural and not enough in the crafting stuff by hand side.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm trying to balance that more. And I have a couple of ways that I'm trying to do that. One is getting more into Blender, making things by hand in Blender a bit, doing more box modeling and stuff again.
Yeah.
Like I'm loving doing all that kind of stuff. But the really big one for me lately is using VR as the place that I do all of my handcrafted stuff.
I was going to say a lot of your work that
it's-
you've been producing lately looks like it was sculpted in VR.
Yeah, whether it's VR sculpted in either Adobe Medium or Adobe Modeler,
Mm-hmm.
or it's done in Quill, which I've been experimenting with a lot more. Which I know, like, James Ramirez
Yeah.
and like a bunch of other people, like, have been messing with for a lot longer than me. But my studio mates, Will and Hugo, shout out to them. They do a lot of C4D and Octane and also a lot of VR stuff, a lot of Quill. Their work is like amazing, and they really got me more into Quill.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of power that you have in Houdini with bringing those curves from Quill in and having all these different attributes that they come with,
Mm-hmm.
the color attributes, the different layered data that they're on, the like velocity on the curves and like things like
Interesting.
that. There's like so much crazy stuff that you can do with that data. So I'm really interested in experimenting more with that. But it's like in VR, I think VR is such a game changer because it's for the first time, like since having VR, we are able to like actually work in physical 3D space.
Yeah.
Like on a computer, you're working on a 2D screen.
Yeah.
You're not working really in 3D. Like, and so in order to navigate working in 3D on a computer, it's a lot less expressive and quick. It's a little more slow and methodical, and you're having to move the camera and then nudge the scene around and then move the camera again and whatever. Versus in VR, you're doing it all live at the same time.
Yeah.
Another way I like to think about it is on a computer, you have the inputs are your keyboard and the XY coordinates of the mouse input.
Mm-hmm.
And in VR, you have two entire live transformation matrices.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not even just XYZ, on two cursors at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also the twisting and all the rotations
Oh
and stuff that you
yeah.
can get,
Yeah.
right? Like it's like full transformation. So it's way more data. Plus there's also your headset is another transformation matrix. So it's actually three of them,
Uh-huh.
plus the buttons and stuff on the controllers and stuff. So it's like you can make stuff that feels way more expressive in VR, and you can really make things by hand. And so I'm like able to so quickly in VR, like make a character and animate them. And then the other cool thing with Quill is you don't have to rig anything.
Mm-hmm.
You can just kind of almost be like sculpting frame by frame in a way, or puppeting stuff and like combining all these different techniques together in whatever kind of way you want. And you like then have two benefits from not having rigging being involved in the process.
Yeah.
One is you don't have to rig, which most people hate.
Yeah.
Not everyone, but a lot of people hate rigging.
Uh-huh.
And the other one is you're not limited by like rigs are inherently limiting. You can only do what the rig allows you to do, and if you want to do more stuff, you have to add more features to
Yeah.
the rig.
If you
And
want
it's like,
jiggly
you can
characters, that's going to be really hard to do with a normal, bipedal rig.
Totally. I mean, you'll have to add jiggle bones
Yeah.
or do a lot of extra, like animation like work by hand, or you'll have to like add like a physics sim on top of it afterwards or whatever. But in VR, I can like animate my character moving around back and forth or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I made this one Instagram post of this guy trying to use a self-checkout machine that kind of blew up like crazy,
Uh-huh.
and helped get me some other cool work. And it's like I just animated him like using his phone trying to pay for this thing at the self-checkout machine, and like animated back and forth, and the animation was really jumpy and like felt very handmade in VR. But then I brought it into Houdini and I was able to add the jiggle on top of that because the topology was consistent, because I wasn't redrawing the curves every frame.
Yeah.
And then I was able to like then like create a mesh out of that and like mesh each different color group in a for loop so that they all mesh as different objects, and then use a point deform to like deform the way that was moving around using all the points from the animation from the curves. And then I could add jiggle on top of that, or I could add like, a hair groove on top of that and all this stuff. So it's like I'm doing the crafting stuff by hand, and then I'm really leaning into the like all the procedural tools that I have at my disposal. So yeah, I love working like that way, and I'm trying to spend more time in VR and do more experience with that, because I think it's such a game changer. And I'm trying to figure out like how do we get more VR tools developed, because there's no hype around it at all anymore. And it's like, again, the way I was describing it, it's like it's to me the most exciting potential of 3D is like getting more VR tools where I can animate stuff by hand in VR. And I have all these ideas for like what I would like to see in a tool. But nobody cares about VR. It's just all about AI right now. But it's like that's really the game changer, is being able to actually work in 3D.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll link you right now. I've been putting together a little reel that has a bunch of friends work in VR, and I'm like still kind of working on it, and I've just been like kind of putting it together to show people, to prove to them like this is what's cool about VR. I just sent it in the team's chat.
Okay.
But
Where's my team?
but you can like I can send it in Slack.
No,
too,
it's all right.
That's better.
I got it.
Okay, cool. But yeah, it's like it's really exciting. I mean, I know a bunch of people
here's something
know about it, like
that I think is really interesting. You don't use Houdini in the way that a typical person uses Houdini.
100%.
When I think Houdini, I think, like pyro, I think grains, I think vellum, I think
you think Star Wars.
I think Star Wars, yeah. But it's like you use it in a way that like if someone was like, "Oh, cool, did you do that all in Maya or Blender?" You'd be like, "Nah, I did it in Houdini." And it's like,
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like it's crazy to me because it's like you just can't. Like I just like started using Houdini, and I was like using it for effects and stuff, and I was like, but I could just do jiggly characters in there like I'm doing in Maya, or I could do like, and it's better for doing that stuff. Like especially since they added all the character stuff. The other cool thing about it, I mean, we were talking about, you know, the companies that make these tools, and like Side Effects is not a publicly traded company. They're owned by Kim Davidson still, you know, like part of them is owned by Epic, but it's like a minority share.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, Kim's sort of say, you know, is sort of what goes. And Kim is really passionate about character work and character animation and all that stuff, which is part of why, you know, we made this short film with them, as he was excited about like that idea. But yeah, they've been pushing really hard on that stuff, and I would love to see more people get into it. And I've been really stoked to see, like, from some of the tutorials that I've made, like you can see that there are people that are, you know, like doing really similar stuff to what I was doing in Houdini, of like making characters with VDBs and then like doing animation with KinEffects and then adding jiggle to them and whatever. And it's like super cool to just see like people experimenting with it more. And it's like, you know, you don't have to make a water sim using the flip solver. You can do all kinds of stuff with the flip solver. You don't have to make a cloth sim using vellum. You can do all kinds of stuff with vellum. Like these tools desperately need more people that are just like thinking outside of the box with them, because there's so much more cool stuff that I want to see explored with them. And there's lots of people that are thinking outside of the box, and people doing more crazy MoGraphy stuff like XK Studio. They're doing like incredible stuff with Houdini. You know, and you know, other people doing amazing character stuff like Rich Lord and Sasha Budimir and like, you know, like tons of other people. I mean, and we got Matt Siegel in the chat. Mellow MoGraph is doing Houdini stuff sometimes, also doing lots of sick VR sculpting stuff.
Okay, talk to me about what we're seeing here. This is
these are my friends Yonk. They're in the Netherlands. They do amazing stuff with Blender and VR sculpting and stuff, and I'm just like a huge fan of their work. It's so expressive, and you can really tell it was kind of all sculpted in VR because of that. And then this is all my studio mates, Will and Hugo, who they did this stuff in Quill. They animated those birds. They did this crazy, like, it's like stuff that just like I've never really seen before or done any other way, and it wouldn't really be possible. This is a physical zoetrope.
Oh, it's a physical one. Okay.
Zoetrope. It's so cool. Yeah. And this is an ad that we made together that I produced. It's like one of my first producing gigs for this beer company. Yeah, and then Gunnar was doing really cool stuff for a while with VR tools. I mean, you've had Colin on the show.
We have,
She's like, you know, Joseph Melowish in the UK is like doing like, again, like stuff that just like it, you know, you couldn't really make that like without the VR tools. Like it just
doing spline type stuff or like drawing in 3D space, the amount of time it would take to like, you know, set your curves in the correct space, you know, in like a typical 3D package sucks.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a lot of the stuff that I'm doing here with the Quill stuff. Like this is a bike ad that I made that I got asked to make after doing that self-checkout thing. But yeah, it's so fun getting to kind of animate it there. And I worked with Yonk on this, and they sculpted the bike in VR and stuff too. And we made all this like behind the scenes stuff. But but yeah, this is a whole short that I made in a couple days using Quill.
Really?
Like I like animated most of it in like a day, like including designing the characters and everything. So I got to bypass the rigging and just quickly, you know, the characters are pretty simple. But it's like, it's just crazy what you can do, like working so fast and expressively, and then have so much ability to tweak that afterwards.
Man.
But yeah, I've been doing VR stuff for forever, and a lot of people don't realize like most of my characters are sculpted in VR. Yeah, shout out to Hellovision. I made that little short for Hellovision, which is a really fun thing that I recommend everybody try to participate in at some point. They just did an open call for a new one, but they do like a open call every 6 months or so for people to make a bunch of animations around a theme, and then they do screenings in all the big cities and stuff, and it's a ton of fun to be part of that little like indie animation community. There's some more of Colin's personal work.
Man,
she's killing it.
She is, yeah.
But yeah,
so cool.
Yeah, these guys, yeah. Lots of good stuff.
Lots of really good stuff.
Shout out to Hex Studio.
You know, and it's interesting. It's like I feel like you can kind of tell that some of the stuff is like sculpted, but there's also other
Mhm.
ones that it's like they must have taken them into DCC and done some smoothing or some remeshing or something, you know,
Yeah,
versus
but that's
just bringing
the
them
again the
all.
beauty of it, the mix of doing the stuff in VR and then you get that data
Mm-hmm.
out and then you can do so much stuff with it in a tool like Blender or C4D or Houdini or
Yeah.
whatever. But especially with Houdini where you get all the data that you can really, like do anything you want with.
Yeah.
Um,
Man,
and
this
with Quill,
time
it's
is
cool
going.
because
It's
it's
going by.
all.
I just looked at the time and I was like, "Oh my gosh, we only have 10 minutes
I
left."
know,
This sucks.
I know. Well, we gotta talk about the
Yes.
sneak peek.
Yeah,
We should
yeah,
go to
yeah.
that if you're
Let's
down.
talk about
Yeah.
that. I'll come back over to the screen. So, for those who don't know, Houdini 21 sneak peek was released yesterday. You can check it out on Side Effects YouTube channel. But now I watched this with like three of the other guys over at ABC. Like they announced it, or they.
Dude.
Oh yeah, the dog penis shader. You know, I'm really excited.
Yeah. Well, this Otis GPU accelerator gradient tissue solver, I think it's based on a paper that came out I think last year at SIGGRAPH called Vertex Block Descent, conveniently VBD.
Uh,
So very confusing,
that's
but
funny.
it's all GPU accelerated, and yeah, this new test human is insane
Yeah.
with this crazy machine learning like skinning on it and stuff, so that you don't have to like do like muscle sims, but you can just kind of have trained how the character deforms based on the muscle system and stuff. I mean,
And are
like
you still
way
having to
over
draw? I'm just gonna pause.
this way. This part,
All right.
you gotta
All
you
right.
gotta play this part. This part's insane.
It
The
was
NPM solver.
insane.
This is the most insane shit I've ever seen. Just like what the fuck, like. But that's just the start. They put the milk in there.
Yeah. I was
It's just like
telling the guys yesterday, I'm like, it's been pretty cool seeing the new stuff that's coming out of C4D, but I feel like anytime Houdini shows off a new feature, they absolutely freaking kill it. Like
it's
it's
totally
so
no.
that looked so photoreal and so crazy.
I mean, dude, the side effects devs are just like the smartest people,
Yeah.
smartest people out there. I'll never be able to understand. But I
This
love
pumpkin
them.
thing was
This one
so
looks
cool.
insane too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, all the stuff they're really pushing the NPM solver stuff, which is really impressive, but definitely a pretty high level tool.
Yeah.
Like good for really hero shots for like big studios and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But hopefully it gets faster and more accessible. And I'm not using it for a lot of stuff myself, but it's really cool. Like, and it's just crazy the range of things you can do with it is unbelievable. Like this kind of stuff versus like doing RBD sims and stuff. I've been playing with the car rig recently too. I made like a fun thing with that.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it's cool. They're adding all the fracturing and stuff to that as well. But like, it's so fun. You can just like set up a little car in Houdini and then drive it around with physics and everything. And it's like, just having a little RC car in your Houdini scene, like with whatever like collision geometry around it that you want. So much fun. But yeah, and then
They've added in
got some
a few different like AI tools or
Yeah.
implemented some AI into some of the solvers and stuff, right?
Yeah, there's some interesting machine learning like stuff in there. None of it's like the kind of stuff that you're really used to in terms of machine learning. Like again, it's like giving people the tools to train their own data sets to do
Yeah.
stuff mostly. Like again, for example, if you have an animal with muscles rigged and all that stuff or
Yeah.
whatever, you can do some test sims with that, and then you can use machine learning to say, okay, I want you to like use this ML skinning now to deform it as if it was doing a muscle sim without it actually having to,
Ah.
do a simulation.
I think there
which
was
is
also
pretty-
some what was it, like smoker VDB
Yeah,
upresing
upresing.
stuff.
Yeah. You can train pyro sims and then you can upres them and things like that.
That's super cool.
This I'm actually is one of the things I'm most excited about is having all these material presets
Oh,
for
cool.
cops where it'll generate the whole network of all these basic setups, which I think will make it a lot easier for people to kind of author their own materials and
Yeah.
like learn from that. The Gaussian splatting stuff is very early days,
Yeah.
but like I'm working on a big project with Gaussian splats right now, and I'm really excited to see how that kind of develops over time.
Just a little side note: have you checked out some of the new Octane Gaussian splatting stuff that they've done in
Oh yeah.
standalone?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm using it for this project right
Oh
now
wow,
also, and the Otoy people are super super helpful, and it's all in alpha still, but
yeah,
it's really exciting. It's cool. You can like kind of do some relighting and stuff,
yeah.
and I
The
know that
relighting
they're
stuff is
working on some really cool
crazy.
stuff. Yeah, like the shadows and all
Yeah,
that stuff, and yeah, I'm having some fun with it. I'm doing some experiments, um, but yeah, the stuff that they're doing with this one looks amazing.
yeah.
Yeah,
Geometry
I mean
lights.
Karma's gotten incredible. Karma XPU is like so it's what I use for everything.
Mm-hmm.
I've only just started messing with Octane just because of the Gaussian splat stuff that's not in Karma yet. But
Yeah.
like, Karma is really, it's just so nice to have a render engine built in that just works really, really well. Like I really did not miss not having to deal with third party engines and stuff. Um,
And are you
uh,
rigging stuff in Houdini as well when you
yeah,
when you work?
totally. Yeah, either with KinFX or with Apex, which is this new system.
Okay.
Um, and we used Apex Hardcore for the turbulence short. It's much better for making like really like production ready high end rigs that like you would hand off to a character animator. But I
Oh.
think KinFX is still um, better. I think if you're approaching it from like I'm an effects artist, but I want to take advantage of some rigging tools and
Yeah.
stuff, and like I want to build my own procedural system and have a procedural rig that does this, and that. Like, but if you're making a rig to hand off to a character animator, it's worth going through the steps to put it in Apex so that it can be a lot more kind of comfortable for them, and they can really, there's a lot going on with the rigging stuff at Houdini, and it still is, I think, like work in progress, but it's
Mm-hmm.
it's getting really exciting, and it's definitely starting to give Maya like a run for their money,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
This stuff was cool. This is very similar to the motion clips in
Yep.
Cinema 4D.
Yeah, motion clips. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And shot sculpting is a really nice add as well. Being
Man.
able to like really manually tweak your shots, like with the sculpting tools, like after animating them or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, it's pretty sweet.
New shelf tools, it looks like.
Yeah, a bunch of crazy pyro stuff, a bunch of stuff set up with renders that you can like see how the shaders work and everything.
Yeah. Volume up res.
Yeah,
There you go.
pyros. Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, the AI. Yeah, the ML volume up res rather. They're not saying AI anywhere. They're just saying
Machine learning. Yeah, that's
which is
probably
which is
smart.
good. Um, but
Wow.
yeah, that's a nice looking one.
Yeah.
And then I think right after this, where it gets into the insane stuff they're doing with cops. Oh man, yeah, the sims that you can do in cops and stuff.
What is cops
are-
exactly?
So cops is their compositing tools. It's kind of like
right.
becoming it's like Substance Painter, Substance Designer rather, and kind of like a little bit becoming like Nuke.
Right.
And it's just such a game changer to have those tools built into Houdini.
Yeah.
And it's making me get into doing compositing stuff again with like light passes and stuff. But it's incredible for doing like texture generation and things. And I've barely scratched the surface with it myself, but like I was using it to like generate sweat maps for turbulence, where like my particle sims or whatever, they would leave trails behind that would then like be like maps that could then be read live into the render and things like that. But yeah, I mean, you can see just like the amount of stuff that they add every time. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
Um,
That's pretty crazy. That's so cool. I've been on the fence. So for those who watched the live stream last Thursday, for those who don't know, we do a weekly live stream every Thursday. It's called the MoGraph Hangouts, where around 7:30 Central Time, I'll just get on. I'll just start creating stuff, have some fun. It's a chance to be creative and stuff. My computer crashed 3 times during that, and so I was just like, I was so fed up, because I've been having it happen often. So I'm taking this week off from the live stream. We'll be back next week. I wanted to mention this for those who are in Dallas or around the Dallas area. There's a motion meetup. The UTD MoGraph meetup, the first one of the semester, is this Thursday, August 7th, from 6 to 9. It's at Rodeo Goat in Plano. So if you're in the Dallas area and want to meet up with some other MoGraph professionals, yeah, come hang out with us. So anyways, that's one reason why we won't be live streaming. But also, I got to get my computer back up into good shape and onto like Windows 11, because right now it's been on Windows 10, and it's like I feel like some of that, and it's an older machine. Anyway, I wish I had my Mac. That the problem is my Mac is my main machine. It's the most stable machine I have in my house. You know, I've got the M1 Mac Ultra, but it's like I wish I could do that, but I'm running OBS on it. And after the first live stream where we crashed our complete system, we learned real quick not to be using Octane and C40 at the same time. But I think I'm gonna buy a Houdini Indie license, and we're gonna start going through that and start playing around with it, and just make something. So we'll see.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Hit me up when you do that. I'll hop in there.
Yeah, that would be great. So all right. Unfortunately, we are out of time. I'll have to have you come back on, man, because it's fun talking shop with you and stuff.
Dude, it's so fun to chat. Yeah, thanks for having me on again, and thank you everybody in the chat.
Yeah. Chris, where can people find you online?
Christopher's.website. I'm on everything. I'm on TikTok. DM me on TikTok. Yeah. Send me a LinkedIn friend request.
Oh my gosh, I get so many LinkedIn requests and stuff, and it's like every day I'll get 2 or 3. And first I look to see if they're in a country where there are known spammers and scammers and stuff, and if they are, then I'll deny it. But it's like people connect with me all the time, and not a single person is like, "Hey, how's it going? What's up?" Whatever.
Yeah.
So.
No, definitely mostly just Instagram, and I'm definitely on LinkedIn and stuff. I mean, it's fun being a little bit of a shit poster on LinkedIn because people think that you have to take it seriously for some reason, but it's just another dumbass social media site.
It really is. And then it's so filled with AI BS. Like, this is how I got to $10 million in 1 year, and it's like, okay, emoji lists. Nope, you're immediately AI. Yeah. So, but yeah, thanks to everyone for joining us. Make sure to follow us on all the socials, especially YouTube and Twitch. We've been doing our weekly hangouts. We'll be off this week. I don't have a guest for next week, so we're either it'll be a last minute thing where I bring someone in, or because next week is also SIGGRAPH as well. So a lot of people in the industry are out. So we may skip next week. Subscribe to the newsletter. We'll send those out. But also, if you haven't done it already, make sure to sign up for your very own MoGraph.com account. It's a one-stop shop for everything a motion designer needs. You can showcase your demo reel, projects you've worked on, post jobs, apply for jobs, sell digital goods, which is our commissions are lower than Gumroad. So if you're selling stuff on Gumroad, come sell on MoGraph.com. You can find meetup groups or start one of your own, and so much more is planned. We just hit over 800 members, which is so super exciting. Big shout out to everyone who has joined. If you have an Otoy account, you have a MoGraph account. You just have to go log in. So we use the Otoy single sign-on, which is great. And your work will never be fed to the AI machine. So stop posting on Instagram. Start posting on MoGraph.com. Chris, thanks so much for being on the show. Super excited to have you here. MoGraph greater than Gumroad. Yes,
feed the work to the AI machines. They can never replicate me.
All right. Until next week, or maybe the week after, I'm Matt and you are Chris, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody. Later, yo.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Pretty good, I guess.